Marcus Chen had built his fortune on numbers, cold, hard data that never lied. As CFO of Retail Max, a chain of 847 stores across America, he lived in boardrooms where million-dollar decisions were made with the stroke of a pen. But standing in the fluorescent-lit break room of store number 247 in downtown Phoenix, watching a young cashier carefully divide a single sandwich into two plastic containers, Marcus discovered that some of life's most important calculations couldn't be found on any spreadsheet. The 23-year-old had no idea she was being observed by the company's chief financial officer. To her, Marcus was just Mike from corporate another suit doing one of those mysterious store visits that always made management nervous. He'd been conducting these undercover assessments for 6 months, a practice he'd started after shareholders complained about declining customer satisfaction scores. But what he witnessed during that lunch break would change everything he thought he knew about success. Elena Rodriguez had been working at Retail Max for 8 months, ever since her husband deployed to Afghanistan with the army. At 19, she was raising their 2-year-old daughter Sophia alone, stretching every dollar until it screamed. Marcus watched as she carefully wrapped half of her turkey sandwich in napkins, placing it in a small cooler bag beside a juice box and apple slices cut into perfect stars. "Taking lunch to someone special?" Marcus asked casually, though his trained eye had already noticed she'd been skipping her own lunch breaks for the past 3 days he'd been observing. Elena's face lit up with the kind of pure joy that Marcus hadn't seen in his corporate world in years. "My daughter. She's at the daycare next door, and they charge extra for lunch. This way, she gets something homemade, and She paused, suddenly self-conscious. "Well, I'm not that hungry anyway." The lie was gentle but transparent. Marcus had noticed the way Elena's uniform hung looser each day. How she'd been buying discounted energy bars from the clearance rack and splitting them to last through her shifts. He'd seen her calculating and recalculating her grocery receipt at the self-checkout, putting back items when the total exceeded her carefully budgeted amount. That evening, Marcus sat in his corner office 40 floors above the city, staring at Elena's employee file. Single mother, perfect attendance, customer service scores in the top 5% company-wide. Her hourly wage, $12.50, barely enough to cover rent in Phoenix's increasingly expensive market. Meanwhile, his own salary could fund her entire department for a year. The next morning brought an unexpected storm. Marcus arrived at store number 247 to find Elena in the parking lot, her beat-up Honda Civic refusing to start. Through the rain-streaked window, he could see her on the phone, her voice strained as she spoke to what was obviously a repair shop. $1,200? She was saying. I understand it's a fair price, but I don't have that kind of money right now." Marcus watched her hang up and sit in silence for a long moment, her shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. When she finally gathered herself and walked into the store, her customer service smile was firmly in place, but her eyes told a different story. The breaking point came 3 days later. Marcus was reviewing inventory reports when he heard a commotion near the checkout lanes. Elena was at register 4, and an elderly customer was becoming increasingly agitated about a price discrepancy on cat food. "Mom, I understand your frustration," Elena said patiently, even as the line grew longer and other customers began to mutter complaints. "Let me call my supervisor to override this for you." But her supervisor was on break, and store manager was dealing with a delivery issue. The elderly woman's voice grew louder, attracting attention from other customers. Marcus watched Elena handle the situation with remarkable grace. eventually using her employee discount to cover the difference in money he knew she couldn't afford to lose. When her shift ended, Marcus followed Elena to the daycare next door. Through the window, he witnessed a scene that would forever be etched in his memory. Elena knelt down as 2-year-old Sophia ran into her arms, chattering excitedly about her day. The little girl was wearing a dress that had clearly been mended several times, but it was clean and pressed. Her shoes were too big, probably bought to last long durable, but they were polished to a shine. "Mommy, I saved you some of my sandwich," Sophia announced proudly, holding up a partially eaten peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a napkin. Elena's eyes filled with tears as she hugged her daughter tighter. "Thank you, sweetheart. Mummy loves you so much." That night, Marcus made a decision that would ripple through every store in the Retail Max chain. He didn't sleep, instead spending hours crafting emails, making phone calls to the board of directors, and restructuring budget allocations. By morning, he had a plan that would shock every new, including himself. The next afternoon, Elena was called to the store manager's office. She walked in nervously, worried she'd done something wrong, only to find Marcus waiting with a smile that reached his eyes for the first time in years. "Elena, I have some news," he began, his voice unusually warm. "First, Retail Max is implementing an immediate company-wide wage increase. Your new salary will be $18.50 an hour, retroactive to last month." Elena's hand flew to her mouth, but Marcus wasn't finished. "Second, we're launching a new employee assistance program, starting with emergency car repair funds. Your Honda should be ready for pickup tomorrow morning, fully repaired and with a year's worth of warranty." Tears streamed down Elena's face, but Marcus had saved the biggest surprise for last. "Finally, I'd like to offer you a position in our corporate training program. Your customer service skills and work ethic are exactly what we need to train other employees. The position comes with full benefits, childcare assistance, and a starting salary of $42,000 a year." Elena collapsed into a chair, overwhelmed by the sudden reversal of fortune. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why me? Why now?" Marcus thought about his corner office, his 7-figure salary, his empty penthouse apartment that he rarely saw. "Because you reminded me of something I'd forgotten," he said quietly. "That the most important numbers aren't on financial statements, they're in the lives we touch, the families we support, and the kindness we show when no one's watching." 6 months later, Elena stood before a room full of new Retail Max employees, leading a training session on customer service excellence. In the back of the room, Marcus watched with pride as she shared her story, not as a victim who'd been rescued, but as a leader who'd earned her place through grace, determination, and an unwavering commitment to doing right by others. The corporate world had taught Marcus that success was measured in quarterly profits and shareholder value. But Elena taught him that true wealth lay in the moments when we choose kindness over convenience, generosity over greed, and humanity over the bottom line. And sometimes, the most valuable investment a company can make isn't in new technology or market expansion, it's in recognizing the extraordinary people who were there all along, quietly making magic happen one customer at a time.